Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. We just got out of a horrible election here in Ontario, and I will have more to say on that in the near future. But for right now, I just want to have a little fun, a little bit of relaxation, a little bit of storytelling. I guess this would be something similar to if I was doing a live stream, what you would see if I had the technical know-how to do the live stream with all the different cuts and edits I'm going to be doing in this video. I'm still working out on what I want my live streams to look like, what I'm going to be doing in it. So yes, I know I've said 1,000 times already I'm going to be doing a live stream, but I really do mean that eventually I will be doing a live stream. I just need to figure out how it's going to go. If I'm just going to talk about news stories, if I'm also going to give anecdotes of my life, if I'm going to talk about autistic, ADHD, dyslexic, obsessive compulsive tendencies, what I'm going to add to it completely, I'm not sure yet. So if you want to see a live stream with me, please in the comment box below, list some of the things you would like to see me do in these live streams other than just cover news and social issues that is in the news. So what I'm going to be telling you guys today is my trip to Boston. I know this, I can't help but feel like this is back when people used to invite people over to their house and be like, oh, we just came back from vacation. Here's a slideshow and we're going to talk to you about every picture and stuff. I can't help but feel like this is kind of like that, but in the new modern age. But the story, I want to tell it partly so I can remember it later on. And also, there's just some very fun musings in there from the perspective of someone like me with autism and how they go about navigating a vacation like this where you're out, you're meeting people, you're in a location you've never been before, you're alone, and some of the things that kind of go on in a person's head when that's happening. And it was a lot of fun. And it was my first trip outside of Canada in a long time. But I'm also going to be talking about the process of drawing Sam Seder. At the Boston live show, that's why I was in Boston, was to see the Majority Report live. The Majority Report has a YouTube channel from Monday to Friday. They do a political news show with interviews and fascinating conversations and all that sort of stuff. I'll link to all their information below. I wanted to give Sam a gift and I drew a picture of him, and a lot of artists want to know what other artists' processes are for drawing or for their art making, how they think of the ideas, what goes through their heads at different phases and stuff. And I did take a few progress photos of the drawing. So I'm going to be kind of mixing the stories of Boston plus the process of drawing Sam Seder together. Before I get to all of that, just a quick reminder to hit the like and subscribe button. I'm on Twitter. You can follow me there. Also, I have a Patreon account so that if you want to support my channel, you can go there and make monthly, I want to call them donations, but they're not, monthly contributions so that I can make this my full-time job. And there's also an Amazon wish list that can help build my studio. Any help, any way you can, is really appreciated. Even if it is just liking and sharing the videos, every little bit helps, and I appreciate everyone who supports this channel. So I didn't film this video all at once. I did it in different segments, one for like the Boston trip, one for talking about the art, and then kind of like touch-ups and redos and all that sort of stuff. So basically, the lighting, the makeup, the hair might be slightly different. I apologize. I don't have proper studio to control lighting. And when I tried to merge the Boston talk and the picture talk, there weren't really some natural places to kind of break them together at the beginning. It gets smoother, so just be patient with that, and after a while you won't even notice. So to properly start telling this story, I need to start from the very beginning, and that is when Sam on the Majority Report announced that they're going to be having a live show. And this happened back in like October of last year, I think, is when they first announced it. It might have been actually November, but it was right around that time. And I remember thinking, wow, I really want to go, but limited resources, things like that. But then I got a part-time job, and that part-time job paid really well. So then I'm like, this is something that means a lot to me. The Majority Report was a huge inspiration for me starting my channel, and it would be amazing to actually meet the people behind it, to see the show live, and to go on a little adventure for the first time in years. So I do what I tend to do, and I bought the ticket before thinking about anything else. And that led into a little bit of, I wouldn't say it was an issue, but it was something that was time sensitive. And that was, I needed to get my passport. So I had to rush through that process. And of course, once I've rushed through that, I got that all set because, I bought my ticket in November and the show was in January. So I wanted to make sure that I got it, especially with the offices closing around the holiday season and all that sort of stuff. And then of course, COVID got a little out of control and they had to postpone the show. And during that time, there were a lot of people IMing the show, saying that they were a bit upset with that. Some people wouldn't be able to make it who would have been able to make it before. Some people had to cancel hotel rooms and plane tickets and things of that sort. I had to cancel a hotel room, which wasn't a problem. There was no fee for me to cancel the hotel room. But what I did have to pay for was the rush charges. But I wanted to let them know that this was still a good decision. They were taking the fans' safety into consideration, and I really appreciated that. And I wanted to let them know that I appreciated that, even though I was now out money. So I sent in this IM.
Left of the Box, thank you for postponing the live show. It must have been a hard decision because you knew some people would lose money and be upset with you, but you did it anyway because you live in reality and safety for your fans is more important to you than popularity. This is why I know Left is best. I say this as a fan with little spending cash who is now out over $100 rushing my passport. But you can easily make it up for me by making sure there's a Majority Report scarf and toque. Toque? Toque?
Well, I can give you a Majority Report toque, but I don't know if it's...
Maybe
tote
pick
bag,
up
I think it's what...
9 from time to time. We will do that. And yes, I mean, I mean, that was, I wanted to do it far out in front so that people would be able to change their things. I had never contemplated, passport rushing or anything like that. But yes, we will endeavor to make it up to you.
So did I know Sam wouldn't know how to pronounce toque? Yeah, I knew he wouldn't. I wanted a scarf and a toque. Those were like the two things that I wanted the most. And I remember them saying in the show, since the show was being the live show was being postponed until May, that they wouldn't have those things because it wouldn't be winter anymore. And I was thinking, oh no, those are the things I wanted. So in the IM, I asked to have the scarf and the toque at the show for me to buy. The very next words after he messed up toque was for me to buy them. So I felt a little weird. It's like I might be a social commie, but I'm not expecting free handouts on anything. Some of you might be out there thinking, wait a second. I've had to get a passport before and I've rushed it and it doesn't cost $100. Well, no and yes. See, when I first went to get my passport, it turned out my birth certificate was too damaged to use. And that was a problem because I was born on the other side of the country. So I had to rush paperwork. But I also thought since I'm getting a new birth certificate, now would be a good time to actually update my gender on it to X because I'm non-binary, which was a good thing to do. But the paperwork I had to send for the gender modification and the paperwork I had to send for the actual birth certificate went to 2 different offices. So that meant that I had to send 2 express letters. And then with the birth certificate, they had like a gold, silver, bronze plan. So if I wanted it to be a priority in the office for them to look at it basically right away and then to express ship it back, it was a lot of money. And then plus also rushing the passport, basically all of that added up to over $100. And I was fine with that because they made the right call. And it turns out it was even more of a right call because the weekend that the show was supposed to happen, there was a brutal snowstorm that shut down highways that I would have been stuck in the States. Because the snowstorm happened on the Monday, I would have been driving back and there wasn't much warning on the Saturday when I would have been driving there. So I would have driven there and then been stuck. So it turned out to be a really good thing that they moved it to May. And Julie Seder, she did something really sweet for me. And she contacted me on Twitter. She DM'd me to ask me, what exactly I was talking about with the toque. She was wondering if I was referring to a tote bag or not. And she was kind of indicating that they would be available for me. And again, I thought that was really sweet, but I was also feeling really bad because it's like, no, I didn't want them for free. I just don't want to pay for shipping across the border. So I thought if I could pick them up at the show and buy them at the show, then that would work out. But it was a super sweet gesture on her part. So I'm getting ready to go to the live show and I'm going to be meeting Sam. And because I know that they tend to do meet and greets afterwards. And I knew I wanted to be a part of that. And for me, I felt it very important. I wanted to give him a gift, something to... You see, it's hard to explain, but it was because of Sam and the Majority Report and Michael Brooks that got me to start my content creating on YouTube, which totally changed the direction of my life. The amount of growth personally that I've done over the past couple of years has been more than in the past few decades. I rediscovered my talent for art, and not only did I rediscover it, what I'm doing now far exceeds anything I was doing before. It didn't just change the direction of my life. It saved it. How do you thank someone for that properly? Like, how do you really express it? So I wanted to be able to give Sam a gift that would be something that he would truly appreciate. And luckily, I had a very good idea as to what that gift should be. And luckily, I had the skill needed for that gift. I follow Sam on Twitter, and I've noticed a pattern, and I don't think it's just my autistic brain that has picked this up. Like, I'm pretty sure it's obvious to anyone, especially after the video of Aamon Hawk. You should check out his YouTube channel. He makes fantastic short videos. One of them was featuring Sam. You can see that link in the description box below. I recommend you go subscribe. So yeah, Aamon Hawk made a video that featured Sam, and Sam was just absolutely gushing over the video. I don't know what the proper word is, but he seemed really taken with it. So to me, what I see a pattern is that Sam absolutely adores being the muse for artistic works. And the skill that I rediscovered was my drawing. And so I thought, okay, I can do this. I can draw a picture of Sam, and that would be something he would truly appreciate. I'm going to jump ahead now to when he was actually showing the drawing on air, because at the end of it is the question that will lead into part of the rest of the video.
Clown Shoe Mike, I meant to ask earlier, but was too focused on the Tim Pool Binder question. Did y'all enjoy the beer? Saw Emma drinking some rainbows. Loved the show.
I did, yeah,
Oh,
I
well,
did.
thank you very much.
I had 1.5, I think, but those were big cans, so they were great.
I am from Left of the Box. I have the print. I was going to show it tomorrow, but we have apple chips, and Sandy from Left of the Box drew an amazing picture of
Illustration of you.
illustration of me. Really just like sort of blow your mind level of
So
artwork.
good.
I love it. I love it. And we'll show it tomorrow on the program.
What? I'm not blushing.
One other thank you at
Okay.
the it was so great to see everybody at the show. I mean, it's one of the funnest parts, frankly, about doing those shows is like actually seeing people that we
Right.
get IMs from and whatnot. And we got a gift, or I got a gift, but we also got from Sandy from Left of the Box. She came all the way from Canada, and quite a trip, and she did in addition to giving us a bunch of apple chips, which were over there. Nobody hit those during the broadcast.
I didn't know
last
they
night.
were there.
Oh, I was trying to sort of hide them.
Well, that'll be my next
and
target.
She gave me some syrup, which is great because the kids like pancakes on the weekends.
It's not what you think, okay? Okay? It's not what you think. I did not give him maple syrup. I did not do the most cliche Canadian thing possible and give him maple syrup. It was apple syrup. He has a thing about apples, and I saw it at the same place I got the apple chips, and I thought that would be really neat to add it because I've never seen apple syrup before, so I got him apple syrup. It was not maple syrup.
She gave me some syrup, which is great because the kids like pancakes on the weekends. But also this, she drew this. It really is. I feel like the like one of the best drawings I've. I mean, not just because it's of me, but just
It's unbelievable. I'm looking at it right now. Wow.
Look at that.
Really
There
amazing.
we go. It's like there's two.
How
of
do you
them.
even do? How does someone even do that?
I don't know. I mean, I know how I would do it. I would take a screen grab and then use some program to make it look like I drew it.
Right. I mean,
But that's not what she did. Really great. So thank you so much, Sandy. Okay.
So what I did was I got a screen grab and I used a program, but that's not what I did. The first thing I needed for the drawing was an image to use. I didn't want to have to rely on a screen grab. Back last summer, I sent Sam and the Majority Report a drawing of Michael Brooks. And that one I had used a screen grab for the image that I referenced. And I didn't want to use a screen grab because they're not high definition. They're not highly detailed. And I've been finding with my artwork, the better the picture, the better the drawing. The more detail I have to reference, the more lifelike it looks. No doubt about it, the drawing I did of Michael was fantastic. But I feel like it could have been better. So I contacted Julie and asked her if she had a good picture of Sam that I could use, or if she would be able to take one. And I knew it would be a long shot. Basically, what I was hoping for was maybe there was some sort of publicity photo, like a professionally done publicity photo that wasn't really released to people, or a nice casual photo that had been taken already. And I also told her that even a picture from a cell phone would be good. I've done plenty of pictures where I've used cell phone pictures. So the criteria was like high definition. So if it's blown up to an 8x10, you can still see fine details, well lit, no major shadows across the face, a good contrast between the background and the face. Try to have a neutral expression, which is asking a lot for somebody who isn't a photographer. So she said she would see what she could do, and I was hoping she'd be able to find something. Unfortunately, Sam then went and got COVID, and apparently he wasn't that photogenic during that period. So she wasn't able to get the photo. There was no photo already available that I could get, so I'm like, okay, I will try from a screen grab, because recently they've upgraded their system at the Majority Report, so their videos are higher definition, plus I've upgraded my system. And I've learned how to download high definition videos and figure out better ways of grabbing that image. So the episode I downloaded was actually the first one when he got back from COVID, because he was doing it solo, which meant there would be more screen time of just him, which would mean that there would be a bigger image that I could pull from. So I downloaded that episode and then I put it in my video editing thing. And here's the tricky thing, and the other reason why I didn't want to rely on the screen grab is the mic. It tends to be right in his face, and I didn't want to have a drawing of him with the mic added in it. I just wanted it portrait. It's in my editing program, and so then I have to watch it for times when he kind of pulls away a little bit from the mic. And when he did that, then it's going by frame to see if I can get the right type of expression that I'm looking for. So it's a bit like treasure hunting, because then when you find a good image, it's like, I don't know, it feels good when you kind of find that perfect image. So I did pick about 7, because how they look on screen and how they look printed off, and then how I feel about drawing them will be different. I picked an image that I felt I could do. So the first trick is the tracing. Because I do trace the main outlines, I used to try to measure it out, but that was a pain. It took forever and it was never precise enough. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to cheat a bit. And I put a piece of graphite paper under it and kind of traced it out. And I'm drawing it, but it's not feeling right. I'm not getting the sense that this is coming together. And I started to get worried that this wasn't working. 3 hours after I started, I had to stop. And I had to say to myself, this one isn't the one. Which can be hard to do as an artist, to actually accept that something you had already been working on for a bit isn't going to succeed. And while the drawing I would do would be good, it wouldn't be the drawing I wanted to do. And part of it, I think, had to do with the paper I picked, because I'm worried the paper I like to do the portraits on is very thin. And it doesn't necessarily strike people as professional when you use the thinner paper, but there's something about the texture of the paper that I've been using for the portraits that I find really works well for the type of pencil work I did. So the one that I had been working on, it wasn't working. The expression I picked wasn't the expression I think I wanted to do. And so I decided, new paper, new expression. So I get across the border, and it's my first time in the States, and I can't even remember how long, and I had this incredible urge to go to a shooting range and deep fry beef jerky. It's a thing. So the first rest stop I went to, or I stopped at, had an Apple stand outside of it, and the guy at the Apple stand seemed to want my attention when I first went in. And I kind of figure, he's trying to sell apples. That's what they do. And on my way out, I decided to stop and chat because I want to talk to people. I want to get into conversations and things of that sort. Now, I'm not entirely sure because apparently since I am autistic, I have a really hard time picking up cues from people when they're directed towards me. When they're talking to each other and other people, I'm very good at reading them. But whenever something is directed towards me, I don't pick up on it. And so I think he was flirting with me because he complimented my outfit. He really liked my style of what I was wearing, a Star Trek t-shirt and khaki pants. He seemed to want to keep the conversation going, wanted me to stay in the States, wanted to learn more about me. So I think he was flirting, but sometimes, people are just curious and they're nice. Yeah, so I can't actually tell when people are flirting with me. And I've just kind of always assumed nobody has been my entire life. Until some people pointed out that because of my autism, I'm probably just not picking up on it. So I don't know. It doesn't really help me to know that because it still feels like nobody's ever flirted with me and there's no way for me to go back in time to find out if that was the case or not. So anyway, he sold some cookies and I got a new subscriber. So I guess it was a win-win. And so there was actually an image that was very similar to a portrait I had done of somebody else that worked out fantastic. And it was basically a straight-on look, well, a straight-on face, but looking off to the side. And the nice thing about this image too was the glasses were in just the right position that there was no glare. So I thought, okay, let's start this one. So I had to stop again and I had to kind of take some time to just kind of relax. I get a lot of anxiety before I start a picture, especially when it's a portrait of a person. If it's a portrait of an animal, there's a lot more margin for error. But when it's a portrait of a person, it has to be spot on. And I get worried that I don't think I'll be able to do it because I don't know how I do it. It just kind of happens. And I look at just this blank piece of paper and I don't know how it comes together. And I get scared because it's like, what if I can't do it again? So then I look at my other artwork. And I remind myself what it looked like when I started, the outlines, how these simple outlines transformed into an image that has life, that has character, that has dimension. And I have to remind myself that I can do this. So I got the new image, and since it was a thinner paper, I could use my light table, which is basically my window to the outside world, and just kind of use that to trace out the outlines. And I actually prefer to do that way because I get a better sense of what the line work is looking like. And I had to start over. I was doing this a lot later than I wanted because I was on a timeline. I had to get it done by a certain time because it wasn't just a matter I got the drawing done and I could give it to him. I also take it to a studio so that I can get a print, a copy of it, a digital copy of it, and a print of it, because it's really hard to give up the artwork. And so I like to have, for my records, if nothing else, an image for myself. Driving in America, my GPS, for some reason, switched over to miles instead of giving me countdowns in meters and kilometers and things of that sort. And at first it wasn't really a problem because I was on the main highways and it's like, stay on this highway for 200 miles. So when my GPS actually crapped out, which it liked to do a lot on this trip, I wasn't too concerned until I got to, like, I could go a couple rest stops until I felt the need to go in and use the Wi-Fi to get the map working again. So my GPS switched over to miles, and it was a bit confusing for me because I can't visualize that. I don't know how long a mile is. And so I get into Boston and suddenly it's like, okay, in a quarter mile, make a right. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And it's like, why are you expecting me to do fractions while driving in Boston? And not to mention, like, where are the goddamn street signs? There were none. So I was getting really frustrated using my GPS in Boston for sure, because the streets there made no sense. And it's like, okay, quarter mile, half mile. I don't know what that means. I can't picture that. Did the new line work and started working. And now we get into some of the progress photos. Now, I didn't take these the way that I should be taking progress photos. They were just snaps on my cell phone. The lighting isn't the same. For a future drawing at some point, I want to have it set up properly. So I have a camera on a stand and everything is positioned right, and the lighting will always be the same. So the image will be the same, the lighting will be the same. That's not what you're going to get here, but there's still very good, interesting views of where I was during each step. Once I have this basic line work down, I just start filling, I just start shading different places all over. There's no set pattern to what I work on. It's just kind of what I feel is right. For me, the primary thing to do first is the actual face. The hair, the clothes, the background, that's all last. But I want to make sure that I get the face right. And this is after probably 2 hours of work. And this is when I had that moment. I heard myself say, "Hello, Sam." All of my drawings that I've been doing of pets and people, there's a moment when I feel like there's a life added into it in the drawing. It's like I know it's going to turn out. I just feel a presence with it. And so then I will say hello to whomever I draw, whoever I'm drawing, whether it be a person or a pet. And I noticed this the first time when I was drawing the pictures of Michael, that because I did 2 of them. And for both of them, there was a moment where I just said, "Hello, Michael," because I knew that's when his character, his essence, was going to be in this picture. And so even though this drawing doesn't look good right now, I had that "Hello, Sam" moment, and I really relaxed a lot. And I would just like to say that in my observation, Canadians speed more than Americans. Yep, on our main highways, we tend to speed more. It's more, we speed at the same top speed, per average, but our maximum speed is actually lower than your maximum speed. So technically we're speeding more, and we tend to have more outliers where I'm going like 120 on the highway and then somebody is just passing me like I'm standing still. There's a lot more of that in Canada. That is to say, until I was just outside of Boston and then there was a strip of the highway that was just pretty much the Autobahn. Like, just go for whatever speed your car could take. Yeah, so I'm in Boston trying to get to my hotel room. I get lost even with the GPS working because, again, the streets there were just, nothing was making sense. And then my GPS would be like, okay, make a right turn here, but then I was already too far in the intersection going kind of the other way, and then I'd have to turn around, but there was no easy way to turn around. Anyway, super frustrating. Finally get to my hotel. And when I was in my hotel room, I tried to call my mom to let her know that I got there safe, because I had called her when I was at the last rest stop to say, okay, yeah, I'm still about an hour out. And she's like, okay, well, call me to let me know that you got there safe. And I got to my hotel room and my cell isn't working. I have no cell service. And I got the internet while I was in my hotel because they have Wi-Fi, but I had no cell service, and my mom isn't on like Twitter or anything like that. So I had no way to let her know not to worry. But it was pretty late when I got to my hotel. It was already around 8 o'clock, and I didn't want to stay there because I wanted to meet up with people, and I had already kind of made plans to meet up with Kate Shep. Kate Shep has a YouTube channel. Go check it out. She has some of her songs on there, and she does some other little fun videos. Linked below. We had been planning to meet up, and we arranged to meet up at a pizza place, and we were DMing each other through Twitter. It didn't occur to me at the time to maybe get her cell number, because as soon as I was away from my Wi-Fi, my internet wasn't really working. And right before I left the hotel to go meet up with Kate, I remembered my friend said that I shouldn't take my passport with me in case I get mugged or something like that. So I remembered to take it out of my purse. So I got a cab down to the pizza place that we were going to meet up, and I had no internet and no cell service. I had no idea how to contact her to say, okay, I'm here now, you can come meet me. So I was kind of wondering what to do. And then I checked my phone, and before I left my hotel, I guess like right before I left it, she had sent me a DM on Twitter saying that there were people from the Discord group, the MR Discord group, meeting up at the TAM. Thankfully, the TAM was right beside the pizza place we were meeting up. And so I was able to walk in there, but I'm like, I have no idea who I'm meeting up. And thankfully, when I got to the back, somebody actually recognized me. And so I'm like, okay, great. So I got them to contact Kate to let her know that I was there, and she came over and stuff. But then I realized it's like I still hadn't contacted my mom. So I sent her not a weird text at all. I used Kate's phone to send my mom a text saying, this is your daughter. I am safe in Boston. My cell isn't working, so I'm using my friend's phone. Nope, not strange at all. And then somebody that we were hanging out with suggested I do the most obvious thing. Turn my cell phone off and on. Yep, it worked. Got my cell service back. But even though I got it back, every now and then later on in the trip, I would just lose my cell service. And I don't know why. It was annoying. I would lose my GPS. I would lose my cell. It is so weird these day and age to have like your cell phone kind of crap out and then have all of what we're so used to now not be available. Kate and I, we went over to the pizza place like we had planned to get something to eat because I hadn't really had a real meal yet that day. I've been on the road most of the day. And it was really nice talking to her. Like, I love conversations. I thrive on conversations. I just want to have so many conversations with different people about different things. And I'm also really curious about what do Americans actually know about Canadians. And so when I went, I made sure to have a loonie, a toonie, a $5, $10, and $20 bill on me. And I was very surprised to learn that she didn't know what a loonie and a toonie was. We just take it so much for granted up here in Canada that it's a $1 and $2 coin for those of you who don't know. And I even told her the story of how they got their names, which is really ridiculous. You know, the loonie, when it first came out, it was a dollar coin and it had a loon on it. So we called it a loonie. And then the toonie came out, and it's like a silver ring with like gold in the middle or whatever. And because Canada is Canada, it was the $2 coin, and we wanted it to rhyme with loony. So it became the toonie. That's the story in a nutshell. I had a really great chat with Kate while we were in the pizza place, and it was really nice to get to know her a bit more. So in the TAM, the bar, I had a great time chatting with some of the people from Discord. It was really loud in there, and I got some pictures, and yes, I am aware in these pictures I'm not wearing a mask. That's because I was still in that little window after actually having COVID where you get that extra boost of immunity. And even then, I was still limiting where I wasn't wearing a mask. So it was really just when I was out with the MR people so that I could talk and socialize with them. But other than that, like in the cab, the hotel, the rest stops, I was still wearing a mask because I don't want to catch COVID again. And now that I'm out of that window, whenever I'm out in public, I'm wearing a mask. Had I not been in that little window during the trip, yeah, I would have still been wearing a mask at the bar. It's a little bit more difficult when I was out to dinner, but I at least would have been wearing it at the bar. As much as I wanted to stay out later with the people at the TAM, I wanted to get back to sleep because it had been a long day and I wanted to make sure that I had enough rest for the next day. It took over an hour for me to get a cab. Like at first we tried to get me an Uber from the bar, but the prices were outrageous. And then we tried calling different cab companies, and then eventually I went with Kate to her hotel and the hotel had to call a cab. And then when I was out on the curb, I think I saw what was supposed to be my cab, but somebody else took it. And so I ended up calling more cab companies, just trying to get a cab. And I was waiting on the corner for an hour. And the traffic nightmare I saw when I was there, like, I don't know how I didn't witness 3 accidents in that time. People are just kind of taking traffic rules as somewhat of suggestions, like running the red light, turning whenever. It's basically drive and try not to get hit or hit anyone else. And like, I've seen nightlife in big cities before. Like I lived in Toronto. I had never seen anything like that. It was pretty insane. And the streets were really crowded. And it's like, it is one of the things, like, yes, I wasn't wearing a mask in the bar, but it's still kind of disconcerting seeing all of those people out there not wearing masks. And it was crowded. And I'm just like, yeah, we're never going to get over COVID, are we, as a species? I finally get a cab, and the cab driver, he was chatty, which I liked because, again, I love having conversations. And he mentioned that part of the reason why the cabs were so hard to get was that during COVID, they lost a lot of cab drivers and they hadn't really replenished their numbers yet. So there weren't as many cab drivers as there should be in the city. And on a busy Saturday night, they're hard to come by when you're in the downtown area. As you can see in this next photo, there's a lot more shading going on, a lot more base look. What I do is I kind of layer the shading. I start with a number 4 pencil, a lighter pencil, to do a lot of the line work, a lot of the shading and stuff, because I layer in the dark. Basically, it's like a Polaroid picture coming to life. Even though I had that Hello Sam moment, at this point, I'm still looking at this like, I don't know. Also, keep in mind, again, when it comes to taking pictures of pencil work, it's so hard to get a good picture. The actual drawings are far better than what you'll see on screen. And I think anyone who has seen any of my drawings with their own eyes will contest to that. Even the professionally done images digitally don't look the same as the actual artwork. I have this drawn, and again, I have to stop and pause because I look at this and I don't know how it goes from this to how it will end up. But I have to remind myself yet again, this is the process. I've done this before with other drawings. I've hit this spot, and I have to remind myself there's still a lot of work to do. Don't get discouraged right now, even though I still have no idea how it's going to work. And I just have to trust my talent. I have to trust my instinct, and I have to trust my talent and trust that the pencil knows where to go. I didn't want to stay out too late because I had made plans to meet up with a Twitter friend of mine who, she's not really familiar with Majority Report, but I had sent out a tweet to people who follow me and I follow on Twitter. If they're in the Boston area, let me know and we can meet up. A Twitter mutual of mine, Zylla, said that she was available to meet up Sunday morning before the show. She has a YouTube channel. She makes different kinds of video essays on philosophical and political topics, board games, just things that she enjoys and likes talking about. So please go check out her channel, linked below. The next morning, I'm getting ready to go meet Zylla and got her cell phone number this time, just as a backup. According to the GPS, it was about a 20-minute drive and I didn't want to take a cab there. So I thought, okay, it looks fairly straightforward on the GPS. So I'll drive it. Oh, that was a mistake. When I was on the interstate, the GPS just crapped out and I knew I was supposed to get off somewhere around here. So I just went off the interstate and eventually my GPS came back on, but I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And so I was trying to go by the GPS and I got so lost trying to use the GPS. Like I'd have to pull over at times and it would tell me to start going somewhere, but it's not like it knew what direction my car was pointed in. So as soon as my car was going in a direction that it didn't want me to go in, it would recalculate a route that took me further around because the roads there make no sense and lots of one-way streets and all that sort of stuff. And it felt like I was in some sort of vortex, like I was just kind of going around her place without actually getting to it. Like there was some sort of barrier between me and her, and I was getting so frustrated trying to find her place. And at one point I turned down a street and I had to give her a call and try to figure things out. But eventually I did find the street she lived on and I was able to find a parking spot there and she was waiting outside. So then that was great. And again, we had a really good conversation. Kind of made it worth all the frustration that I went through. Because, like I said, I love connecting with people. I love hearing their stories, learning about where they live and stuff. And she said the reason why that the streets were so messed up in Boston is because they just made roads that followed where the cows went. And I told her that here in my city, the reason why the streets are messed up was because back when they were designing the roads, somebody accidentally dumped spaghetti on the paper, and since paper was so expensive back then, they just said, okay, we'll go with that. So every city has its lore, I guess, about that sort of thing. But it was really nice meeting up with her and getting a chance to get to know some of the people that are friends of mine on Twitter, to actually meet them in real life, and I would love to be able to do more of that. Here, I'm getting a lot more confident in how this is going to turn out. I've started to add the little details. Now, the funny thing about the beard, I wasn't too worried about drawing the beard, even though he has the salt and pepper beard, because of all the fur on animals I've already drawn. And it's a very similar technique. To make the white look more white, you have to make the dark around it even darker. And so it's a lot of fine lines right in there for the dark, plus making sure that there's shading for the skin tone and that sort of thing. The thing that was worrying me the most was the glasses, because he has glasses with like a transparent frame. And so I knew that would be tricky because I'm not trying to duplicate the picture exactly. I can't, because as you will see from the original photo I was working from, the mic was right here in this area here. It would have been very difficult for me to just duplicate the picture. But also, I'm using it as a reference. I still have to make choices in what I do. I had to make the choice to make the glasses, especially right around here, more visible, because in the actual picture, it pretty much disappears right here and you don't see the frame at all. And even now, I knew I still had a lot of work to do. It was still a long way from being completed. Again, just breathe easy. I tend to listen to trance music as I'm doing this. Armin van Buuren, State of Trance. I like to listen to that. State of Trance has a YouTube channel. They do a weekly show on Thursdays, which is the top in trance music. It's usually about 2 hours long. Linked in the description box below. Especially, I thought since I was drawing the picture of Sam, it'd be a really good idea to put on Armin van Buuren's A State of Trance, the top 50 of 2020, because it was a 4-hour long broadcast. And that was what I was listening to the first time I got myself back into art. And that happened because of the Letterhack. He has a YouTube channel. I recommend that you go and check it out. He's just started. He will live stream the cartoon drawings he does. Link to his YouTube channel is in the description box below. And that was his simple request that one year. I have a video on it. You can go and check it out. I'll link that below too, where he just had the simple ask of other people drawing Sam Seder for a change, and me sitting down and doing it and rediscovering my talent, which one of the more profound moments in my life in the past, I don't even know how long. But when I was doing that drawing, I was listening to the top 50 of 2020. And so I put that back on as a little reminder for when I was drawing this picture of Sam. Because at some points I don't need background music, but I do enjoy having it. And I like the trance music because you don't necessarily sing along with it. It is just something in the background, an enjoyable melody that you can have on. It's that or an action movie, like a Marvel movie. So I did have the Avengers on for part of this. The first Avengers, because I love Marvel movies a little bit too much. And I like having them on in the background because I don't need to pay attention to them. And I find that they're just a lot of fun. So that's kind of like some of the background process that's going on that helps my artwork. Luckily, the drive back to my hotel was a lot easier because I was already sort of familiar with what the area looked like that I was supposed to be in. And there's a traffic circle near there, which I guess is what you guys call, or Americans call, roundabouts. But it's not like a roundabout in Canada because our roundabouts have rules and structure where, again, these traffic circles, you just try to drive into it, try not to hit anyone, try not to get hit on the way out. It's like some sort of like derby of some sort that you go around and you get lost in and stuff. And I'm just like, how aren't there many, many more accidents on any given day on these streets in Boston? That just kind of blew my mind. So I got all ready for the Boston show. I got my gift bag for Sam and stuff. And it was, again, called a cab. But I tried to call early this time. And again, it took an hour for a cab to show up at the hotel. And I was getting so frustrated. If there is one thing people should know about me, if they want to have any sort of relationship with me, like I mean friendship, romantic, family members, one thing you do not do is make me late for things. I can't stand it when other people make me late. And that's kind of what I was going through at that moment because Julie, Sam's sister, had contacted me to let me know that she had a little package waiting for me and that if I get to the theater at 1, she can come out to the lobby and meet me and stuff. And I really wanted to meet her. And I was getting really frustrated because I didn't get a cab until 1:15. And so, again, just so frustrating. But I get there and Julie still came out to meet me, even though it was getting really close to showtime. And it was really great meeting her. And she had my scarf and toque, which was really nice. It was super, super sweet. And we were talking about how the best way for me to give Sam the gift bag, because, you know, it's not like she could just take it back there right now behind the scenes because the show was about to start and that's what they were focused on. And that was fine. I could hold on to it and stuff. And she kind of gave me a little insider tip that near the end of the show, they'd be playing the memorial for Michael, and that if I come out into the lobby, that's where the meet and greet would be. And that way I could be like nice and early in front in the line. And so it's like, okay, great. But after meeting Julie, it was pretty clear to me that she is why Majority Report is functioning. She is super great, and I loved meeting her, and I got to meet Sam's other sister as well. And I just wanted to talk more, but I love conversations and I just wanted to keep on talking, but it was right before the show. So of course that couldn't happen. And it was just super, super sweet to have the scarf and the toque. Because those were the two main things that I wanted to buy when I was there. So thank you, Julie, so much for the scarf and toque. I also bought a t-shirt when I was there, as you can see. And I'd like to think I make Majority Report look good. I get up to my seat after paying $5 for a bottle of water. And when I got to my seat, I nearly cried. Sam had said before when advertising this show that there are no bad seats in the Wilbur. None. They're all good seats. I'd like to challenge that. This was my view. Yeah, that was my view. I was in one of the box seats and it wasn't even layered. Even standing in my spot, I could only see half the stage. And I was just so upset that I had gone through all this trouble to get to the show and I had the worst possible seat in the entire theater. Part of my frustration was when I first bought the ticket, I bought a ticket for like the second row of the mezzanine, and I thought, oh, the box seat is available and it's probably going to be a better spot, so I'll take that. And so the thought that I had transferred to that spot was just making me so upset because I couldn't see anything sitting down. Standing up, I could barely see anything. And yeah, and there was two people beside me who also were struggling to see because I was also right against the wall. They were at least by the side of the box, so they could see a little bit more than me, but still not well because it was flat. Like they were, when I looked across the theater, the other box seat had it kind of layered so that the people at the back were higher up so that they could see. But I guess for some reason, the box that I was in didn't have that. So it was pretty much flat and I didn't have a view, so I was really upset. But luckily for me, the show was not nearly sold out and there was nobody in the first row of the mezzanine. And so when the band started and there was still nobody sitting there, me and the two people beside me were like, yeah, we're going over there. And so I went and sat in the first row of the mezzanine and that was a very nice spot. Great view, comfy seat, and could see everything, was far more relaxed and felt a lot better after I moved. So it all worked out in the end. So then we get to this drawing, this point here. What I have here is a perfectly good drawing. I could have stopped here, but I didn't. So as you can see here, I've started to add in the background. I've been finding that I like a simple background. Like I just do some shading, like a bit of a shadow, a bit of a highlight, but it's different depending on who I'm drawing, obviously. It doesn't even necessarily match up with the light source. It's a way of highlighting certain areas or contrasting certain areas, but it's also just kind of like a vibe, a feeling that I get of where to add dark and light elements to it. For this part, it's very important that when I start smudging the lead, that when I'm doing something like the background or the clothing or some parts in the hair, so around here, back here, in here, I can use smudge sticks that I discovered at an office supply store, oddly enough. And so they're just like long, I don't know, it's like a really light cardboard. I don't know what it is exactly, but you can use it to smudge the lead. The thing you have to be careful with is that it will smudge it a lot darker than what you see. So you have to be careful with it, but it does smooth it out nicely. So when it comes to smudging the lead in the face, or smudging not the lead. So when it comes to smudging the pencil in the face area, I tend to just use my fingers for that because it smooths it out, but it doesn't make it notably darker. Like I said, I could have stopped here. It would have been an absolutely fine picture, but now we're entering into the part of the drawing I love the most. because I look at this and I know I've got it. This drawing works. Now I get to spend a lot of time doing the small, tiny details, which no detail on its own would you ever really notice. But when you start adding all these tiny little details together, you get this. Something that just feels a lot more alive, that has just the tiniest things. Again, you wouldn't even notice when I go back. It's like you can see it, but it's hard to tell exactly what the difference is, other than like this one is a lot smoother. This is partly also just the quality of the picture I was able to take. But there's just the tiniest details, like adding this here, fading out areas here. And at this point, I'm not even really referencing the photo anymore. I'm actually referencing him on the majority report because he does his daily shows. And so I was doing a lot of like looking at the screen, looking at the drawing, look at the screen, looking, oh, okay, I'm going to go change this, which actually makes it better than the photo that I was using it from. And something that I'm also doing about, well, I guess I started back around here. If we go back to this one, I use different lighting to draw under. So it's getting late at night, it's getting dark, but as long as I can still see the paper, I will draw, because I find I notice different things depending on what the lighting is. And so I like to start a drawing at very bright lighting to get the base work down. And then when I get to this point where I'm doing the details, the finer details, I like to have bright lighting again. But when there's the in-between where I'm shading and smudging and that sort of thing, I like to have a large variety in the lighting I'm doing it under. The other thing that I start doing at this point is I put it up on a stand that I can then walk away from. And I go about 6-8 feet away from it, and I look at what needs to be changed, and then I go back in and I just do, sometimes it is just the tiniest little line, but it makes all the difference in the world. Hey, Frodo. Oh, can't do a video without being interrupted by a kitty cat. There we go. I'll have the drawing up on the stand, and I will just leave it there for the day. And every now and then I'll just walk by it and I'll make the slightest little change, or I'll notice a little something, or I'll look at Sam talking on the screen and think, okay, I just need to adjust something tiny. I could do this for hours and hours, but at some point I know I have to stop. But it's this kind of hyper focus, the tiniest details, that I really enjoy doing the most, because it also just brings the picture alive. And this is when I also get a chance to stand back and really appreciate what I just drew. I'm still blown away every time I do a drawing to see how it came out. Like, another reason why I want to do the proper photography of the different processes is I want to see what I'm doing, because I'm not even entirely sure what I'm doing. I want to get a better view of that. But then I stand back and I look at this completed drawing and I'm blown away that I did that. And this is something that I'm dying to ask him about it. But does he see the mouth move? Because I was noticing it with this drawing. It looks like his mouth is opening when you just kind of glance over it. Like, it actually looks like there's movement, which is very weird, and I have no idea how I did it. But I took this to the studio to be duplicated. Watts Visual, if you're in southwestern Ontario and you want to get your artwork replicated, I highly recommend going to them. Link to their website in the description box below. But I knew this was going to be a hard portrait to give up because it was the best human portrait I did. I had to make sure that I also got a good print of it. The end of the show was about to happen, so I got myself down into the lobby, and I was the first person down by the merchandising table, so I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to be the first person in line. And another woman comes down because I think she suspects that's where the meet and greet's going to happen, and so we're waiting by the merchandising table. I end up buying the t-shirt, and then they start cordoning off the area, and behind the door I can hear like hundreds of people have started to line up to meet Sam, and I'm like getting super excited and nervous, and Julie comes out, and we chit-chat a little bit longer. And then at some point she kind of indicates for me to turn around, and I turn around and it's like, oh, okay, I didn't see you there. Translation, I didn't recognize you. You see, I have a really hard time recognizing people out of context, and for some reason I was thinking Sam would be standing next to the merchandising table. So it's like, yeah, I can study his face in intense detail for 11.5 hours to do that drawing, but since he's standing over there instead of by the merchandising table, I can't recognize him. And so I approach. So when I see him standing there, like, this is the instant thought process that went through my head of like, oh, there's somebody at a stand-up table. He's holding a marker. He's looking at me kind of expectantly, like I'm supposed to do something. And you know, Sam was wearing a very similar outfit as that. Oh, right, because that is Sam. Okay. So I approach the table and I'm like looking in his eyes, and then it's like, wait, is this a gaze or am I looking? Like, how long am I supposed to be doing this? Is this like job interview level of eye contact that I'm supposed to be giving? Like, I'd like to look a bit more, but I don't know what's appropriate here. I'm just totally lost as to what to say. And so it's like, hi, I'm Sandy from Ontario, Left of the Box, Rebel HQ. And he's like, yes, I know. And I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how does he know? Because I seriously doubt he's ever seen a picture of me or any of my videos. So how would he know? Well, maybe he recognizes my voice. I don't know. And so I hand him the gift bag, and he's like, oh, that's very sweet. And it's like, oh, that looks like a drawing. I'm like, yes, that's a drawing. It's like, I'd love for you to open it now, but I understand you can't. And he's like, yeah, I can't. There's like hundreds of people waiting to see him. And so Julie comes over and she says, oh, I'll hold on to that for you. And she takes away the gift bag and stuff. And I have like 20 different things that I want to say to him. And the first thing I blurt out is, you're supposed to come on my show. And it's like, damn it, that wasn't one of the 20 things that I wanted to say to him. And I didn't know what to do next. And he's holding a marker, and it's like, oh, right, autograph something. He's supposed to, okay, I don't have anything for him to autograph. Like, I would love for him to autograph the print of the drawing that I have of him, but I couldn't exactly have brought that with me. I was tempted, but you know, that would totally give away what was in the gift bag. And so I just start rummaging through my purse, and it's like, oh, here's a notepad with a blank piece of paper. And so I'm like, here's this blank piece of paper for you to sign. He's like, okay. And he signs that. And he's like, Matt, would you like to sign that? I'm like, wait, that's Matt. Oh, I guess that's Matt because he's indicating that's Matt. And it's like, why is Emma holding the gift bag? Right, because that's Julie holding the gift bag. Okay, got it. And so I don't even know how the conversation ended. I can't even remember that. And so I know at some point I have to leave because I'm like rambling. I'm just at a loss as to what to say or do at this point. And so as I'm leaving, Julie's by the door, and I want to talk to her a bit more. And because I'm like hyper and I'm really chatty and stuff. But of course I couldn't stay. They were kind of ushering me out because, again, hundreds of people waiting to see him. And so I get outside. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it that I met Sam. But the thing is that I had wanted to stay longer and talk to Julie because, you know, I don't know anyone in this industry. Like, I have some friends that I can talk to about politics. I have a cat crying here. And I have, you know, a couple friends that have done some YouTube videos, but there's no crossover. And so I don't know anyone in this field that I can just talk to about this. Like, I lean on my one friend a lot for help with my scripts and stuff, and I always feel really bad about that. So it would just be really nice to sit down with somebody who actually has experience, you know, talking politics in the public sphere and all that sort of stuff. And that's part of the reason why I want Sam to come on my show so much, is that I can actually then talk to him about it. So, you know, hopefully that will be arranged at a different point. But, you know, I was still just like, wow, okay, I got to meet Sam. Here you can see the print, and this print actually looks better than the digital ones because it's not the lead. The lead tends to have like a reflective tendency to it, which is why it can make it very difficult to photograph. As you can see, there is no signature on this print. That's because I sign them after I get them scanned for the prints. And that's because when you see a print out there of any of my artwork, unless it has an original signature, it's not officially from me. And then I'll compare it to the original drawing or the original picture I was using as a reference. This was the original image I was using. As you can see, it is decent quality when it comes to definition. Still not as high def as I would like, but luckily since I could also watch the majority report, I could get a better idea as to certain details. There you can get a good side-by-side image of what I was using as a reference and what the actual print looks like. The actual drawing itself is still... The print is absolutely phenomenal. There is no doubt about it. But the actual drawing, you can't really duplicate that. As you can see, I had to draw around the mic, or to draw out the mic, draw out the background, and it doesn't look exactly like the picture I was using. It looks a lot better than the picture I was using. And I get super thrilled when the actual pencil drawing that I have at the end is better than the photograph I was referencing. And so far, that's been all of my drawings. I'm waiting outside the theater, and other people from the Majority Report Discord group started gathering outside there too, because we were planning on going out afterwards. And Kate came out and she was so thrilled because she had gotten a picture with him. And I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot to get a picture with them. And Emma wasn't there because I guess I was the first person in line, and no surprise, she probably went to the washroom right afterwards. So I didn't even get a chance to meet her. And I was like, okay, so those were like two things that I kind of really I regretted not doing, and I really wanted to do those. There was a group of us standing outside the theater waiting for other people from the Discord group to come out, and I was really tempted to just want to stay outside the theater until like eventually the line is going to empty out and maybe they'll come out and then maybe I can say hi. But then I'm like, is that weird? Like, is it weird to wait for them to come out of the theater? And then the people in the Discord group are like, well, they're probably like going to come out a side entrance or something like that too, or stuff like that. And so we were planning dinner and stuff, and we got a reservation at a place that we would have to walk to. It's about a half-hour walk from where we were, but the reservation was like quite some time out, so they decided to go to a nearby sports bar restaurant to, you know, get a little appetizer or something before we headed up. And I went into that sports bar, and I couldn't handle it there because there was a game. I don't know what game was going on at the time. And I couldn't handle being in a very crowded room with people who would just randomly start yelling. I went to the Panera that was right next door to just get a drink and sit out on the patio and stuff. And of course, when I was sitting out there and I looked over, I could see the theater. They all walked right out the front door. And I saw them, and yes, I could recognize them at that point because I had calmed down a lot. Plus, the context that I needed was they were all standing together, which it can be a weird context, but sometimes when I see people that I'm used to seeing together, then that's all the context I need. I was tempted as like, okay, so do I like run across the intersection like a maniac to go say hi to them? And I didn't know like if I should do that or not. And it felt weird, but seeing what I saw in Boston, it probably wouldn't have surprised anyone in Boston if I had did that, but that's not really my thing. And again, I have a hard time figuring out what is normal behavior, and I don't know if it's okay to approach them in public. I don't know what the etiquette is around that. So I just sat there and watched them walk away. Eventually, the people from the Discord came out of the sports bar, and we were going to start, and we started our walk up to the restaurant that we were going to be meeting up at. And that was the first time that I actually really got to see Boston, because the only other time I really got to see it was from the cab, when the cab was driver, because when I was driving, it's like I'm focusing on the road. I don't really get to see what's going on. And that's when it's like, wow, I wish that I like had the money or the time to have stayed there another day, just to kind of walk around the downtown area, because it was really nice. Some really nice buildings, artwork, just like a really nice culture around there as we were walking. So I have ADHD, and because of that, I can't remember doing little things like locking my front door, locking my car doors, putting my cell phone in my purse, my wallet in my purse, the bank cards back in my wallet, things, just the little things like that. And every now and then I'll get this like stab of panic of like, did I actually do that? Because I have no recall, no memory of actually doing the action. A half hour after I left, I had to text a friend to ask him to make sure I locked my front door. And there's been times where I've made it out to the parking lot. I've had to turn around to come back and check to make sure I locked my door. Now, normally when I get these little like panic stabs where I have to check, I'm in the car and I have my purse with me so I can like reach into my purse to make sure, okay, my cell phone's there, my wallet's there, all that sort of stuff. So we're walking up to the restaurant and all of a sudden I get this little stab of panic. You see, remember what I said about taking the passport out of my purse so that it wouldn't be on me in case of mugging or something of that sort? Okay, so I know it doesn't make any sense right now, but at the time I really wasn't thinking and I just didn't want to put it on my bed. So it was very convenient at the time to put it in Sam's gift bag. And I'm walking to the restaurant and I get that stab of panic of, did I take it out and put it in my backpack? And since I didn't have the gift bag and I wasn't in the hotel, there was no way for me to check. And when I can't check, the anxiety just keeps on increasing. And I started to get really anxious that I had accidentally left it in the gift bag because it's like, gee, that wouldn't set off creepy stalker vibes at all. Oh no. It's just like, oh, I just happened to forget my passport in the gift bag. I guess we'll just have to meet up later on. Sam has nothing to worry about from me. Seriously, he lives in New York. Like I can afford to stalk him. If he wants that kind of attention from me, he needs to move to Cambridge, Ontario. So at some point I broke down and I had to send Julie a message and ask her to ask Sam to make sure it wasn't in the gift bag. Luckily, Julie got back to me and said that Sam confirmed it wasn't in the gift bag. So then that meant I knew it would be in the hotel room. And there was just a huge sigh of relief because that would have been embarrassing. I'll do a quick kind of go through all the images so you can get a better idea. I'd love to do that thing one day where you have like the video that, you know, merges them all together. But for that, I would need to do the proper photography for it. The other thing I feel kind of, I don't know, I don't know if it happens to other people who are doing artwork or what kind of artwork they need to be doing in order for it to happen. But when I was taking pictures of it, the square on the phone to recognize it was a person's face and this was going to be a portrait shot would show up when I was drawing, when I was taking pictures of the drawings, which I kind of take as a compliment. But every drawing I've been doing, it just seems to be getting better. And Sam's drawing was the best human portrait I've done. I think the German Shepherd is probably the best drawing I've done so far. So apparently Sam had gotten on the road to drive back to Brooklyn right after the show or something like that. So it took a while, but I finally got confirmation that my passport was not there. And it was just huge sense of relief. And then Julie also let me know that, like in big all caps, that he loves the beautiful drawing. And I'm like, I really wish I could have seen him open it. Like, I was just, so many things were going through my head. Like, did he suspect? Like, did he know what the drawing was going to be? Like, did he think I drew a picture of him, or did he have any idea? Or, you know, when he saw it, was it like an audible gasp? Did he say something? Was it like a holy shit, look at this? Like, there's just so many things I want to, because I've only tapped into this talent during the pandemic. I haven't had an art show or anything. I haven't seen many people react to my artwork. There's been less than 10 people I've seen see my artwork. And there's only been a few dozen people who have seen an actual drawing or print of mine. One of the things that I like when I take my artwork into the studio, the Watts Visual, to get the prints and stuff, is just to even see their reaction to my artwork. And when they saw the picture of Sam, they're like, that looks like him. Even though they didn't know what he looked like, but they just looked at this drawing and saw so much personality and stuff. And they're like, whoever this is, that looks like him. And since their job, and they've been at it for years and years and years, is reproducing artwork and stuff like that. To get that kind of compliment from them when they do this as a profession and have seen tons of artwork, to know that my portrait pencil sketches are just so, impressive to them, it really, it really makes me feel good. Like, even when I look at it still, the print even, it is quite the thing to see. And I kind of miss the original one. Like, I really liked looking at it. And so I was really curious as to what he thought of it when he first opened it. But I was still just like super thrilled that he apparently loved it. And as you saw earlier from the clips, he expressed that later on, and it was really nice to see that. I'm just so glad that Sam appreciated it, because yeah, I really wanted him to know how much I appreciate him. We eventually get to the restaurant, and it's a pasta food restaurant and stuff. And it was nice again to just be in a setting with Majority Report folks, chatting and stuff. And I got to my phone and I sent out a tweet at the time, because it really did feel like it. And I said that even though I just, like, 2 days ago, I had never met any of the people I'm sitting at this table with, yet it felt like I was meeting up with old friends. And it was just really nice to talk to them. And of course, one of the things I like to do as a Canadian is quiz the Americans about what they know about Canada. And it's like, oh my God, it is so much worse than I thought. It is, American lack of knowledge of Canada is shocking. Basic questions I asked, like, how many provinces are there in Canada? Nobody knew the answer. Who was the prime minister before Justin Trudeau? One person kind of knew. Even what was the capital of Canada? One person got it. One person knew what the capital of Canada was. So it's like just the most very basic questions of Canada that this little focus group of Americans didn't know the answers to. And it's just, it's like, I only ask these questions because I know the reverse answers. I know how many states there are. I know who the last president was. I know what the capital of the USA is. And it just feels so weird that America only has 2 countries on its borders. And given all the economic trade, the business ties, the cultural ties between the country right next to you, you would think that they would learn a little bit about it, but no, nothing. I had a really great time with them at the restaurant. Unfortunately, I barely ate because I don't eat much, especially pasta. I can't physically eat much. And I felt so bad because it was like this huge plate of pasta. And it's not like I could have gotten a to-go container, because there's no fridge even in my hotel room that I could have potentially kept it in. And I hate wasting food like that. And it was really good pasta. But we leave and everyone is pretty much pooped out. A lot of people have, long travel plans the next day. And even though I was still kind of geared to stay out a bit longer, I understood that, everyone was tired and wanted to get home. Since we weren't in the downtown core anymore, there were cabs that I could just walk up to and get one back to my hotel room. Went back to my hotel room, got some rest, woke up randomly at 4 o'clock in the morning, kicking myself in the ass for not getting a picture with Sam or meeting Aamon. It's just one of those things that goes through my head. Still feeling embarrassed about the whole passport situation. And yes, it was in my backpack where I thought I had put it. I didn't want to stay awake at 4 o'clock in the morning because I wanted to be well rested before driving back to Canada. Eventually, I was able to get back to sleep. And so next morning I left, and it looked like it was going to be a pleasant drive home. Most of the drive home was okay, except I hit a massive storm. Once I punched through it, I stopped at a rest stop and I took these pictures and video. But before I got to that rest stop, I was in a downpour unlike anything I had been in before. Like, you couldn't see more than about 10 feet in front of the car. And everyone had their four-ways on because that was the only way that you could see kind of roughly what direction you should be going. And these were on highways, like I'm not familiar with them. I don't know if there's turns or anything of that sort. And like I study, my hobbies are like physical geography. I love natural disasters, learning about them. And so this downpour really got me nervous. And the only thing that kind of kept me sort of calm was realizing we're in a very kind of mountainous. There was a lot of mountain areas, like there was a lot of hills. And when there's a lot of hills, it's very unlikely for a tornado to form right there. If we had been on like a flat plain, I'd be like, there's a tornado. There is a tornado. I can't quite see it through the rain, but there is a tornado. Like it was so bad. And even then, like I was just expecting the car lights in front of me to suddenly wash away, like because the road had washed out or something like that. Because part of the problem of not knowing the highways, you don't know where the dips are. You don't know where the water might be puddling. And it was very, very nerve-wracking. And once I did get to that rest stop, I rested. I took my time there because it started to rain again after I got into the building. And so I just wanted to let it pass a bit. And, luckily on the phone, I was able to see that the storm was going the opposite direction of me. So once I punched through it, then it was smooth driving the rest of the way home. And I finally get back to the border to Canada, and it's a lot later than I anticipated, but it was nice to finally get back across the border where I could understand, the traffic signs for distance and speed and get a Timmy's and just kind of relax and be able to listen to my radio stations because I wasn't able to listen to them, well, or any radio station on the way there because my air conditioner in my car isn't working, so I had to have the windows down, and when the windows are down, I can't hear the GPS, so I had to have headphones in, and luckily I have a playlist of songs I was able to listen to, but, it's nice being around familiar things again after being away from them for so long, and eventually I got home. It was a lot later than I had anticipated, but I really didn't mind the drive at all. I like driving when it's not like crazy traffic or I'm late for something. I find it relaxing to just listen to music and drive, and because, there's no distractions, cell phones or other people and stuff. And so, like, even though it was a long drive, I actually enjoyed it. And yeah, it was nice to be home. And it took me some time to unwind from the trip because, I've been looking towards it since November, and there was all these thoughts in my head of like all the things that could have or might have happened, and then what actually happened and was nothing like what I thought would happen, which is usually how it ends up. But it was still just really great being able to meet most of the MR crew. I'll have to, next time this happens, I'll have to bring the print of the drawing of Sam so he actually has something to sign and I can get that signed and make sure that I get to meet Emma. I also realized that I will not do that drive in the winter. There's no way. I'm so glad this got moved, because after doing that drive in mostly good weather and one torrential downpour, I realized there is no way I'm going to do that in the winter. Hopefully the next time they have a show I can go to and do my do-over with meeting them and actually plan out what I'm going to say and have the print for him to sign and remember to get a picture with them. That was how I drew the picture. That was my trip to Boston. It was pretty rambly at times. I get that. Lots of musings from an autistic brain as to how to deal with people, which I'm still learning. Even at my age, I'm still kind of learning how normal human interactions work. Speaking of human interactions, I feel safe in sharing this with you guys right now because I don't think Sam is ever going to see this video. You see, I've invited him to come on my show several times, and every time he says yes, but he seems very reluctant to actually set something up with me, and I think it's because he's crushing on me. I think he's worried that should he get to know me just a little bit more, he's going to completely fall for me. Maybe it's when he finds out about my direct nature or my need to speak my mind, even though that might mean I'll lose out on opportunities. Or that I'd rather have integrity than fame and I won't back down when challenged. Or maybe it will be when he learns more about my quirky sense of humor and my drive to want to make the world a better place any way I can. Or maybe it will be when he finds out about my years of experience in supply chain. And I also have very attractive healthcare. But the thing is that it'll just be very awkward, and I'm going to have to let him down because I know it'll never work out between us. My downtime involves scented candles and superhero movies. Or maybe I am completely wrong about all this, and there's an easy way for him to prove me wrong by coming on my show. My DMs are open. I hope you had fun listening to this, the fun little stories, a nice little break from, the grind of the everyday politics. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. I have a Patreon if you want to help me out and support my channel. Also, there's the Amazon wish list if you just have, you want to help out in a one-time way. You can buy something off the wish list to add to my studio. Every little bit helps and I appreciate it. I will get back into more of my regular videos of covering Canadian issues because after this provincial election, it's needed. More attention to Canadian issues for Canadians. It's needed. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but there has to be a way of getting Canadians more politically engaged because Americans think it's bad on their side. It's a lot worse on our side. Just the lack of interest of paying attention to any politics. And for the sake of the vulnerable, for the sake of anyone who will ever need to go to a hospital, we as Canadians, we need to start paying more attention to what is happening in this country. That will be my goal with my channel, is trying to increase the awareness of the issues happening here. And I know that means my channel probably won't explode in popularity, but I didn't make my channel to become somebody, to get likes and views and all that sort of stuff. Those are just necessary for my actual goal, and that is to make a difference, to help change Canada for the positive, to do what I can to help others, and, just even a little. Every little bit helps. Thank you again, everyone, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that I was able to set this up as a premiere and you were able to comment, because I love having conversations and interacting with people. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.